Hey, what's going on? This is Gary Brackett. Welcome to a live edition of Success Leaves Clues. And my goal, my mission is to have mentors, have leaders, have people that are making a difference in our communities on to really share with you what some clues they learned throughout their career, throughout their lives that took them on the journey and the path they are today of success. Today, I think I did a little research last night, and he was named Indiana living legend, right? I think, was it the inventor of voicemail or the inventor of...
yeah, I'm an inventor of voicemail, but just like Edison did not invent the light bulb, he's the one who gave you the light bulb that everybody uses.
Yeah,
today.
exactly.
I'm the one who gave you the voicemail that everybody uses today.
So obviously Scott Jones has been around Indiana in the community, made some wonderful donations, the Children's Museum, the dinosaur, some other things. I think, man, this could have been 10 years ago. We actually, I think we're together downtown and we turned the lake blue, I think it was. Like one of the blue.
It was green.
It was green.
Wait a minute. It was yellow for Lemonade Day.
It was yellow for Lemonade Day.
That's right.
Because we were talking about entrepreneurship in Lemonade and young kids.
About 100,000 kids around Indiana learning how to be entrepreneurs for lemonade stands.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm thankful. The reason this is live because we have we're going to share with you an awesome opportunity in this next generation that we're going into, technology, coding, website development, cybersecurity, all these things. Like I am a coder. So he's now chairman and founder of 1150 Academy.
That's right.
So talk to me about 1150 Academy. How'd you come up with that, and why is that something you're passionate about?
Yeah, so 7 years ago, in my house up on 116th Street, which is 1150 West 116th, that's where the name comes from. So I started it there to, coming off of Cha-Cha, which didn't make it, and we can have an hour-long conversation about that sometime. But Cha-Cha was pretty astounding. I think it's better than Siri, it's better than Alexa, and Google Voice.
There was real people on
there was literally 100,000 guides on the back end.
Wow.
You'd get to an expert who could then answer it. So kids were coming in during their test time in the morning and trivia night at the bars and all that. Anyway, Cha-Cha, I miss it. A lot of people have been missing it recently and sending me notes. It's very interesting. But anyway, coming off of that, we got funded really well, $82 million. But we ultimately, couldn't make the revenue thing work with advertising and all that via the text medium. And so we had a, top 20 website, top 20 Android app, top 20 iPhone app. I had some of the best talent in the country working right here in Indiana. Many of them went off to what is now Salesforce and Genesys and Infosys and all that. But, and lots of startups that came out of Cha-Cha. But there was a handful of people, mostly engineering, programming guys, that wanted to get together and teach others because Indiana has always lagged on talent in the tech field, right? You hear about it in Silicon Valley, even Austin, Texas now, and out east, Washington, D.C., and Boston, Cambridge. That's where the talent was back then. And we decided that we wanted to start this thing in my house where we would, teach others these skills, the really world-renowned tech skills. And at first we were doing iPhone apps and Android apps. And about a year after we started the thing, and that worked, and people would learn this for like programmers who knew something about computers would work on this for like a week or a week and a half. And at the end of it, they'd spend that whole week or 10 days in my house, all the meals, everything, just sort of immersing in this platform that is to build iPhone apps. And then they drop dead across the finish line. And so would the instructors. So we did that for a while, several months. And then I decided to go live in Hawaii with my family for a few years. And it was at that moment that I brought in a guy named John Qualls, who ran Blue Lock. He was an entrepreneur friend. And I said, I want you to come in and run this as an entrepreneur, even though it's a nonprofit. I want you to run it like it's a for-profit, but it's a nonprofit.
But it's crazy how nonprofits have to make profit and actually stay alive as a business, right?
Stay, survive.
Yeah.
So John did some really interesting things. He formed an advisory board and asked employers, well, what do you want built here? And they said websites, and we want backends and databases and all that. And so we really changed the whole stack of what we were teaching and into JavaScript front end websites and .NET Microsoft backends with databases and all that. And so, you know, he really listened to what employers wanted to hire. And meanwhile, he broadened the spectrum of people that we could appeal to. So you didn't have to know about tech in advance.
Wow.
You could come in. And so for that, you know, we were probably taking the tippy top of the pyramid of talent already and just retraining them in some other skills. But what he did is he thought through, well, what's the middle 60 or the middle 80% of the pyramid? What skills do they start with, and how do we bring them into the tech world? So he did some incredible work over a couple of years, started to move this forward. I had funded it with a couple of $1 million of my own foundation to get it, you know, started. And then I came back from Hawaii and realized, well, that's all good, but we didn't quite have the funding of, as you were saying, of the nonprofit. We didn't have really the business case worked out, the marketing, and those are all things that I'm, you know, pretty good at. Yeah. And so I dove in and helped John and I worked together for a few months, and then he went on sabbatical and then started another for-profit company. So we transitioned really smoothly into what is now a high growth nonprofit that's doubled revenues each year for the last 3.5 years. And now we're at, we've served thousands of students already, and many of them are doubling and tripling their compensation within 90, this is a 90-day program. You know? And if you go part-time, it's double that. So it's 180 days. That's 6 months.
So now is the program in person? Is it online? Like how
that's how we do what we do. So unlike a college, we'll give you the same outcomes: graduation rate, placement into jobs rate, compensation rates. For us, for 1150 graduates, is equivalent or better than a 4-year college tech degree, but it's 16 times faster at 1150 because it's like, think of study abroad program in France or China. You know, you go and you immerse and you don't speak any English and you become fluent, you know, much faster than you would in a 4-year or 8-year, you know, college classroom situation, right? If you're a bank in France, you want to hire somebody who's actually immersed, right? And they can speak it fluently and understand. So the same thing's true with 1150. We speak the language of tech and we teach the language of tech. It's 480 contact hours in those 90 days. And when I say contact hours, that's not homework. That's our 4 instructors in the room with the students working. So if people don't raise their hand, we notice and we go pick them up off the floor and get them moving, right? So they don't miss a half a day of class.
Also, what you're saying is because they're in class, they're immersed, the professor is there checking on the development, seeing if they're understanding what's being taught.
And there's 3 other people besides the professor that are wandering around noticing, well, are they typing? Are they still keeping up? You know, are they getting the right conclusions? And, you know, is it right? It's the right stuff. Right. And then the pandemic hit. So we couldn't do in classroom. Right. And we thought, oh man, you know, we've been wanting to go online, but can we really do this? And so we were wondering, but we did it. And, you know, one of the things we did in March, whatever it was, 15th, a year and a half ago, we, the day that happened, everybody was going to stay home and be on Zoom. We hand delivered a care package that included that extra monitor that goes with your laptop so that you had the visual real estate to be able to do this. Yeah. And then we made it so that we used breakout rooms heavily, things that would simulate that classroom high touch environment. And we call this synchronous because, you know, you, the student, are online with the instructors at the same time, and you're collaborating with your peers and you're using the chat stream, and it's very interactive, right? And that's why the pedagogy, the teaching methods actually work, right? We cram a lot in the brain, and you're helping other people and they're helping you, and all the, you know, professors and learning assistants are helping. It's different than like going to a Stanford site and, you know, going to like a YouTube or a Udemy or a LinkedIn Learning channel and at your own pace, asynchronously, trying to digest this stuff, and then you get stuck, and you're like, and then weeks go by, and then you forget what you did learn. That's why asynchronous just doesn't work. The completion rates on asynchronous learning suck, right?
So asynchronous, you're saying that like taking a course at your own without without your instructor helping push you along, hold you accountable for any.
There could be really famous people, you know. There's that master's class thing and everything, and it's like really famous people are telling you how to do it. It's all great, except when you get stuck, right? And then who's going to pick you up?
There's no office hours.
There's no office hours. And even if there were, it's not the same as this immersive, accelerated training program that we have, where you're not just working with your instructor synchronously, but you're also working with your peers synchronously. So you learn skills like working with a group on a project using Agile and Scrum and, you know, all these techniques.
Which probably simulates what they're going to experience when they go outside the workforce.
Into the workforce. And the other thing we do that's way different than, you know, colleges or any other training provider is we have relationships with over 350 employers, mostly in Indiana, who come into the classroom on Friday afternoons. They help us write the curriculum at all times, right? We have an advisory board. They come in, they influence the curriculum, and they say, oh, no, we don't use Angular anymore. We use React, you know? And so we're listening hard to what do the employers, ever since John Qualls figured out that's what we should do. We've been asking those questions like, what should we be teaching now? And so unlike colleges where they're accredited and it takes them years to change their curriculum.
So funny stories. I got an MBA from George Washington University. They were famous for the most expensive program, not the best, just the most expensive. So we're in class, and I'm in the restaurant space at the time. And the professor is saying, hey, what's the best margins in a restaurant? And then I'm like, it's soda, soft drinks. Like it's syrup in a bag, add water to it, right? So he said it's coffee. No, it's coffee. I'm like, no, in my restaurant's a soda. No, it's coffee. I'm like, we don't serve coffee, sir. So I'm telling you, so it's like what, like their curriculums are updated, like most times.
It's very narrow.
Yeah, and it's like they can't a lot of times go off a script.
They cannot
because they don't have the practical information.
We change our script in a heartbeat. If the world changes and there's a new release of software, I mean, it's in our classroom.
So it's like an Audible. So Peyton's like an Audible. Apple.
That's right. And in the tech world, everything changes all the time.
Wow.
Right? And then there's the whole stack of technology that's changing. The tools change and the frameworks change and the languages change and all that. And so, you know, we're really good at that. In fact, we're nationally ranked as being incredibly good at that for both software development, web development, and also cybersecurity. And we're adding artificial intelligence and machine learning and IoT and DevOps. I mean, those are the things that are coming online next year. So
let me pause you right there because like I'm familiar with some of these terms because I do a lot of this work. But if someone is interested in a career in tech, a lot of times they feel intimidated because they hear these things like web development. So how do we break it down to them so they can really register and feel that it's something that is learnable?
Yeah. And so first of all, those courses, all that I named, you may not be able to know what they mean at the outset, but it is for beginners.
Okay.
But because of what you just said, we realized we need to do more education about what the options are, so you know whether to go cybersecurity, web development, software development. We only have 3 options right now, and it's hard enough for people to decide, and we're adding more options. So what we did is we created a spectrum. And so at the beginning of that spectrum is a thing called digital literacy.
Okay.
And that class has not been taught yet, but it's going to be taught here in the beginning of January.
Right.
And it's ages 3 to 93. Anybody can come. It's basic digital literacy, really the beginning of the beginners to begin to get that vocabulary about tech. It's about a 10-hour course that's done over a few days, evenings. We're actually doing it some mornings, some evenings, some weekends. And so you can, get it all in a short period of time. And it kind of gives you that education to say, well, what would I want to try next? And then the next stepping stone in that journey is intro classes that are also free.
Right.
So digital literacy is free. And then the intro classes for each of cybersecurity, software development, web development. So you sit down and for 3 or 4 hours, we actually walk you through what it's going to be like.
Wow.
In the beginning phases, and it's free. And at the end of that, you can say, no, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
or I really like this. And by the way, you can try all three of them, right? And it's going to be like 6 or 8 different things you could try, all for free. And then when you decide, that's when you have to commit to, and then you got to get it paid for. Because what we do with 4 instructors, 480 contacts hours, and it's immersive, you know, it's pretty expensive for that short period of time, but it is a steal when compared to higher ed 4-year program that costs $100,000 at a public university, nothing like George Washington.
Yes.
But $100,000 in 4 years, not 1 year.
Yeah, exactly.
and $100,000, but that's not the real cost. The real cost is the $250,000 that you didn't make while you were sitting there.
Opportunity cost.
Yeah, opportunity cost for that 4 years. So add $100,000 plus 2, that's like $350,000 that you're losing in the early part of your career or during a career shift. I mean, that's a lot of money.
So what he's talking about is that while you're in college for 4 years, typically you don't work earn a livable wage.
Just barely enough to keep up.
Just barely enough to keep up with tuition and go to college, and you're learning information at a pace that you're probably not going to remember.
It's going to fall out of your brain.
Right. So you're not going to remember.
And we pack it in there so that you're ready to start, and we teach it the skills you need to actually do a job with a team and integrate with that team quickly. A lot of college kids get out there, and well, if they don't have, you know, working at Starbucks as a barista, and they actually do get the job, they have to go through a bunch of training to even figure out what does it mean to go from college classroom to a work environment with production environment, right? And so we're like cramming that in, but the cost, that opportunity cost of being at college, you're giving up a lot of cash, a lot of wealth that could be used to start your own company, or, you know, just prepare, you know, buy a house, pay off if you did take some college, which half of our students have either got a college degree or some college classes. And so they do have student debt that they're trying to get paid off, and we get them more quickly into a path where they can pay it all down and get out from under the crushing debt. Yeah.
So the great part is, and the reason why this is live is that for the next 24 hours, Saturday by noon, there is an exciting opportunity. Tell us about it.
So the state got some federal Pandemic CARES Act dollars that they must spend by the end of the year. And so there's some millions of dollars sitting at the State House that probably needs to go back to Washington, D.C. if we don't spend it. So the state has decided that they will make those funds available for any Hoosier over the age of 18 who would like $5,000 to pay for the foundations class of $1150, which, by the way, also goes to your point. It is for beginners, and we used to call it, you know, gold badge on web development and software development, but now we call it foundations. So coming out of this first course, you can pick what you want your immersive experience to be. In January of 2022 or February, you know, you can kick that can down the road a bit and be better informed about what the next leg of the journey is. But this first leg of the journey that would normally cost $5,000, which is a big savings over what it would cost to go to college, so it's already a good deal, but nothing's better than free.
Nothing. It tastes better when it's free.
And so you get to try this out. But one thing I'll say is, this will be the hardest thing most people do in their whole lives. And they will be crying in the hallways, even if it's virtual on Zoom. You'll be crying in your own house hallway because this is hard stuff.
So what's the completion rate? Do you have that for for the school?
So it's between 75 and 80% graduate because we pick people up off the floor while they're crying and get them right back in.
That's awesome.
And so, and by the way, the ones that, you know, for whatever reason, life gets in the way and they don't complete, many of them recycle and do that again. And we offer that for free.
That's
great. So even in the future, if you didn't get it through this, you know, 3 or 4 weeks, then you get to come back and do it again. So our complete, I don't know what that is, but it's probably 92%. It's a high rate. If you want to do this work and you don't decide along the way, oh, this technology thing is not for me. Some people do. But most people who come in, they've had enough with the intro classes. They figured out, no, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Right? once you decide you want to do it and you have the grit and the stamina and you show up to class, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
If you show up and you want it, most people, like the vast majority of people complete. And when they complete, our placement rate, which we have a placement office unlike any college campus, we have 350 relationships with employers. Mm-hmm. So we basically, it's still on you to get that job and interview well and, know the skills that employer wants and be able to do an interview. But we take you through mock interviews. We take you through the kinds of tests that they're going to put in front of you when you're ready to be employed. We hold your hand. We call the hiring managers and act on your behalf. Colleges don't do that. No. Right? So our placement rate is over 65%. It's been as high for some cohorts as like 82%. So between that 65 and 82% is our placement rate into jobs that average $56,000 to start. But many of our graduates, once they apply their skills that have been crammed into your brain, where it really turns on, like that's just the beginning when you graduate, is when you get that job and for 18 months you're exercising, what you learned. And in that 18 months, by the end of that, many of our students are getting 6 digits. So 100 grand and more. So you'd have to, if you are in this and you are committed, you would have to try pretty damn hard not to make $1 million in your first 10 years.
Wow. Yeah. That's impressive.
And you can go to YouTube channel 1150 and you can hear our graduates talking about their journey. Like we have hundreds, getting close to 1,000 who have experienced what I just talked about.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So when you talk about obviously immersing themselves, like what is the curriculum? How many hours a day? How many days a week?
It's 9 to the full time, which is this class in December that's free. Is full time, and it's during the holidays, so you got to commit to coming in on Christmas Eve from 9 to 5.
So it's in person.
It is on Zoom. Right now, but we are doing some in person classes again. Finally. In January. So we've decided to do that. But this particular December thing is still from home by Zoom. If you want to come into our office, you can. Because we have 28,000 square feet right next to the State House. Wow. Downtown. And we also have a facility up in Fishers. And then there's a bunch of churches that are standing up facilities, particularly in 46218, where you can go and be in person. We do prefer that people go in person, but
I think I had Pastor Ken Sullivan on, and I think I saw earlier in the week you guys had a partnership where his church is going to serve as one of those locations, I believe.
Yeah, he is fantastic. Awesome. His church is fantastic, and they have signed up. I think they're on 30 going to 40 in a week. Wow, who are going to do this work.
So December class, when does it start?
It starts Monday.
Starts Monday, so you got to act fast, right? It's free.
By Saturday at noon, right? You got to get call us. Go to the 1150.org website. Just go to Google and search 1150 Academy. It'll take you to the website. It's got all kinds of stuff about this thing that starts on Monday, and the sign up is on Saturday by Saturday. And there's quite a lot you got to get done, filling out forms and taking an assessment, and that assessment doesn't judge whether you get to come in or not. It's more of a self-evaluation. Hey, am I going to do okay here? Right? So you get to find out something, some tests that tell you about yourself. Right. So it's kind of cool. And you got to do that work, though, ahead of time.
So how many hours? So it starts on Monday, 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
So is it Monday
through Friday.
Okay.
And it will be grueling, and you're going to just pack a lot of tech stuff. You're going to speak a language that many of your friends don't speak, right? You're going to be that 1% of society that really gets tech, pretty quickly. Not on day one, but by end of the month, you're really going to speak tech. Right?
Is it a 30-day program, or how many days is it?
It is a 30-day program, but we're trying to wedge this in before the year ends so that the state dollars can be properly spent. Okay. So, but then we have a week after that bleeds over into January where it's optional, but you get to participate in it. And then in January you can do the other 2/3 of the journey that actually puts you into a job. Now let me explain the financing for that. Okay. It's not free. Free's great.
Yes, but the first part is free. The first part is free.
The first part is free, and you are not obligated to go any further. However, if you want to go further, I walked through the State House with the governor's office and all the executive branch and the legislature, the General Assembly. And what was approved as of July 1st and became law, something I had worked on for 2.5 years, to have a historic law that puts revolving $75 million. So revolving meaning it's really about $300 million of cash available to students who go through programs that are rapid like this and have at least a 75% graduation rate, at least a 65% placement rate, and into salaries that are in the mid 40s to start, but have to be in that 50s and 60s. Our averages are already starting at mid 50s and moving up into the 6 digits.
Wow.
So that bar, while it seems high to a lot of colleges who don't like to talk about their outcomes, we're actually all about, our North Star is like getting jobs that pay well.
Right.
That is our North Star mission at 1150 Academy. And so this mechanism is set up to have dollars available for our courses going off into the future, but starting with this the back 2/3 of this, there's no cash out of pocket required. None. When you pay back that low cost of education, which is the remainder is going to be $7,500.
Okay.
You pay none of it up front. You pay none of it if you don't graduate and get placed into a good job. You pay nothing. There is no student debt. You owe nothing.
Wow.
But if you get that good job, you agree to pay 5% at no interest, 0% APR.
Right.
There's no credit card like that, right? You pay no interest ever, and all you got to do is pay the principal back of that $7,500 over a few years, which is like $200 a month, $200 to $250, depending on what your comp is. It's 5% of your gross, but it's like $200 a month, and you're making $5,000 a month.
Wow.
So it's like nothing, and you're paying it forward. You're doing the right thing for everybody, your friends, because you're paying it forward to the next guy and putting it back in the bucket for them. That's what it's for. And so the legislature passed this. The other thing that they did that's historic, so one thing was these outcomes-based, higher ed doesn't like...
No question.
There's no law that says outcomes matter.
A lot of higher eds as servers and bartenders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And so the other piece that's historic is all the taxes, state taxes, that come off those people that are succeeding, they don't go back into the general budget. For 10 years, it goes back into this bucket.
Wow.
Which is twice as much as the principal. So if you're putting back $7,500, your state taxes would normally just go and get spread around. But your state taxes will go back in for 10 years, and that turns out to be double what you put in the principal. So you're actually, when you succeed, you're actually paying it forward times 3.
Wow.
So it's kind of a, feel good.
Yeah, it feels amazing.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's hard.
The program is hard, and when you get through it, it's the thing you'll be most proud of. Yeah. And you get to go into careers that actually feel good because you're building things. You can be an entrepreneur. You can build every business has a web page.
Yes.
Every business.
At least should have one.
Yeah. And every business has to worry about cybersecurity. Look at the headlines today.
Yeah.
Every business has to worry about passwords and credit cards and social security numbers and all that.
Right.
Right. And so we teach the software development, we teach the cybersecurity, and we're moving into these other data science fields and AI and all that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So just to summarize the opportunity. You have until Saturday,
yes.
tomorrow
at
12 o'clock.
Yes.
So the first part is $5,000 that they're going to get paid for free with a government grant.
Yeah.
The program will then start on Monday, right? So quick turnaround.
Full time. You got to be able to do full time.
Full time. You have to do full time, 9 to 5, right? So if you wanted a career change, you don't have to wait till the beginning of the year. You can start right now. 9 to 5. 30 days are by the end of December, early January. We have a optional. You probably gonna have to attend it, so just plan it. Yep. And then after then,
and you'll get a certificate for that
for the first person.
Yeah, and
that will already probably increase your salary just with that.
That's right. You can get a job based on that, but you can get a much better job if you go the other 2/3, which is still no money out of pocket.
So how much longer is the other 2/3?
It can either be 2 months full time, or it can be 4 months part time.
Right.
While you hold a job.
So full time is 9 to 5. Part time is what?
in the like 3 evenings a week for 3 hours each.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So there's options, and where can they find out this information at?
All on our website, 1150, spell it out, ELE, right?
Right.
1150.org, or just Google 1150 Academy and you'll get there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then the second half, just so we're aware,
Yeah.
that there's another grant, $75 million that just got approved.
Revolving, yeah.
A revolve that's not free.
That applies forever, and it is fantastic version of funding, but nothing's better than free.
Yeah, exactly. So you will have to pay this back, just so we're clear, but you won't have to pay it back until you
have a great job.
Until you have a great job, and it's only 5% max, no interest.
Yeah.
So roughly $200 a month.
It's 5% of your income.
Wow.
So if your gross is like 5,000 a month, so 60 grand, and then you're paying like I think that's like $250 a month, but you're making $5,000 a month.
Wow.
And so you're paying it forward to the next guy, and that only goes on for a couple of years. And frankly, some employers, as a negotiation, I'll hint that you can say that to some employers, and they'll just pay for it.
Right.
It's not that much in the grand scheme of what they're going to pay you. They'll just take care of it. Some of them.
So that's the opportunity, and that's like the 90 days where, however, the next 5-10 years and where we're heading, like you're a software guy. Yes. You're like you've built your career on looking at trends, looking into the future, seeing like, so you're passionate about this for a reason. So can you, so the last part of the question, I know we have a few minutes left. The name of the podcast is Success Leaves Clues. So I want you to look into that crystal ball and share with the people that are listening, that are still here, like, what's that clue? Why are you so passionate about, why is this going to matter in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Yeah. And so I'll speak to that. One thing I did want to get in on the thing is, if this isn't exactly for you, somebody this is right for.
Right.
Tell them. Like, give them the gift.
Yeah, no question.
Okay, so what's the future? So the future is those things that I was laying out earlier. The artificial intelligence is, integrated into everything, including all of our devices. The plant will have a computer.
The metaverse, right?
Yeah, the metaverse.
Yeah.
And so the virtual reality, the augmented reality, where you can see through things, and what's the inside of that airplane wing look like. I was working on this stuff in the artificial intelligence lab at MIT, long decades ago. We won't say how many decades, but and I built, at the time when I was doing mobile robots running around, the brain of the robot wouldn't fit on the robot, so we had a room down the hall, and I built like all the communications infrastructure to get to the brain.
Wow.
That then told the robot from its sensors feed that back, and then put that. So I think robotics, AI. Data science is huge, pulling out the key. And you see that in sports too.
Yeah.
Right? Moneyball and all that.
What is it? If you can measure it, you can manage it, right?
That's right. And so I think we're going to get better and better tools to wrap around all that is, right? And we're going to have the metaverse where you get to, augmented reality is mapping onto the real world. Like, I'd be able to just walk in the room and I see your name, sitting here in front of me. And I don't have to forget those names anymore, right?
It's crazy because I remember looking at the Jetsons.
Yeah.
And we thought like we would have flying cars.
Yeah. Those are here.
but now I think what it's going to be is just going to be the metaverse. It's going to be this augmented reality.
Yeah.
That's necessary. We're not like, flying in spaceships and cities in the air. I think Dubai, they're building something, that Akon, but I think these glasses and this other dimension is going to be there, and this what you're doing now will set them up perfectly,
right?
To have a first mover advantage.
That's right. They'll understand the technologies, the software layers of it. Some of them will then immediately want to go to, well, what's the hardware look like, right? And so that was one of the things I did. Is I went to a school, IU, that only did the software, and so I put a Purdue hardware engineering thing in my basement to learn both, and it's really helped me to do voicemail and Grace Note and the robotics team. I led the Indiana DARPA Grand Challenge for a $2 million prize in 2005. We didn't win the race, but we were one of the 40 out of 800 teams chosen to go to the race.
Wow!
And then we hung out there for a month and built this 6,000-pound robot that goes 90 miles an hour, has 40 laptops in back, no driver. We raced against the Stanford car, which is now became the Google car, and then the Waymo, probably the best of autonomous vehicles. We were in that race with them, with Sebastian Thrun. And our team, I mean, we weren't ready. So for that month, like we were just heads down in the desert, coding. That's sort of why I started 1150 Academy. Is that's where I learned again in several chapters of my life. I've done this immersion. That's why I started the Academy, is how much you can get done. We did more in that 3 or 4 weeks than we had done in 18 months.
Wow.
Right. And we're there. And I said to the programmers, which, if you come do our classes, I'll probably tell you something at graduation. Well, to test your code, you should do this test. Is these programmers who wrote the code for the robot, no driver,
right.
6,000 pounds, 90 miles an hour. I said, hey, programmers, if you trust your code, go stand in the road and see if this robot can weave its way between you. And they said, okay, we'll do it. And they did. And it worked.
Wow.
The night before the race.
Yeah. You're a huge 6,000 pounds, 90 miles per hour.
Yeah. So I dug a 10-foot ditch in my yard, around my yard, 10 feet wide, 10 feet deep, so it wouldn't get loose into the neighborhood.
Probably smart.
Yeah.
Very smart. Well, man, I thank you for your time, man. This has been fantastic. I definitely have to have you back on. We didn't touch on your career. There's so much to talk about, but we wanted to keep it short, 45 minutes. Please take advantage of the opportunity. Give them the website one more time.
The website is 1150.org. You have to spell out 1150. Or you can just Google 1150 Academy and it'll come up.
Awesome. Hey, so check it out. He's going to come back. We're going to have another conversation, right? A comeback conversation, a championship conversation, mindset. We're going to do that, but we want to have this one first. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Success Leaves Clues. Leave some questions and comments below, because when he comes back on the show, I want to be able to ask him something that you want to know, because I know I have a ton of stuff that I want to know, and I can't wait to have him back on the show. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, take a look at the website. If you don't want it for yourself, you maybe know someone in your family, maybe someone who didn't go to high school, someone who's probably still at the mom's house, right? They got some time, they got an opportunity. Or even if you want to better yourself, better your career, please take advantage of this opportunity once in a lifetime.
And when I started, I was scared of this stuff. I was a pre-med student. I was scared of computers, but when I did it, I fell in love. I built the voicemail that is in the hands of, was in the hands at its peak. Right? We don't like voicemail anymore. But when it was at its peak, 2.5 billion people.
Wow.
Facebook only recently got to 2.5 billion.
Man. So
right?
There it is.
You can do this stuff. Right? Yeah, and I was scared of it too at first.
Right.
But you dive in, you'll know right away if you like it or not.
You know what I tell myself and tell people I coach? Everything that someone knows right now, they learned it.
Yes.
So all these skills that you see that these amazing people have are all learnable.
That's right.
But do you have what it takes to learn the skills? I think you do. And if you do, you should take advantage of this opportunity and definitely tune in to the next episode of Success Leaves Clues. Y'all have a great day.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, thank you, man. Perfect.